everybody. I am just heading back into town from day 3 of my college course to get my Class A CDL. I went from never driving a manual car ever to 90-degree backing a 10-speed double-clutch trailer in between cones within just 3 days, which is insane. It's going to take a lot of work getting used to it, but I'm going to keep grinding and I'm going to make a good life for my family. So, last video, we had talked about that fight that I had gotten into in jail after just being there for a couple weeks. That dude who I ran into, that I robbed on the street, and then we became good friends after that. So, I think today I'm going to talk about what it was like kind of coming off the drugs and kind of sobering back into a normal person after severely abusing my body for pretty much 12 all the way until 19. Whether it was weed, drinking, pills, the meth, Xanax. There was probably never like a 2-week period in all those years that I wasn't ever sober. So I get into that fight, and then I'm in maximum security for a couple more weeks. And I knew a lot of people in there. It was chill. There was fights all the time and stuff, but it wasn't anything. So I get back to direct, and I slowly get into a routine. So I learned how to play cards, just the basics of like spades and poker, and that would go on to be my biggest pastime. When I was in jail, it would be either reading, working out, or playing cards. So I start to, you get your little group in there. I wasn't working out yet, and I had just started to read too. My dad had sent me this giant, like 1,000-page book, and I had never even read maybe like a 40-page book for like school or something, and wasn't even able to pay attention. I just never was a reader. But you have so much time in there. Like when I was going to bed, I would just try to read like 15-20 pages, and I kept getting like 80 to 100 pages in, and I just couldn't understand what was going on. And then one day something just clicked, and I was able to understand what I was reading, and I was able to enjoy stories. And I would go on to, like, the couple years that I was incarcerated, I would go on to probably read at least like 80 books. And these aren't like tiny books. I read a couple ones that were just like a couple 100 pages long, but I was, knocking out 1,000-page books, 1,500-page books, like giant Stephen King novels. And I loved reading, and I still listen to audiobooks and stuff to this day whenever I have free time. But something that was cool in these first couple months, pretty much the only good thing that was happening to me, was my body was healing. So remember I told you guys that when I got arrested, I was 140 pounds. And I'm 6 feet tall, and I normally sit in between probably like 220 and 240. Me being that tall and that skinny I talked about it in that video when my meth addiction got really bad. I was able to squeeze my hands around my entire waist. So, I'd been using for a couple of years the serious drugs that deteriorated my body. So, one good thing that was happening was I was starting to gain weight and look like my normal sober self. And my mind, it literally took years to go back to normal from the damage from all the meth. But I was starting to slowly come back to reality. Now, this is good and it is bad. And the reason why I'm saying it's bad is because when your brain starts to heal from, years of drug abuse, the things that you did when you were using, since you're high, you don't really know the severity of them, or you do, but you just don't think about it, and it just doesn't register, how bad the things are that you were doing. So things are starting to click into my head, and I'm starting to talk to my fiance, she was just my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, how did you stick with me through all this, you know? And I'm so lucky that she did. But, you know, just horrible. Just, you know, leaving for days and running around and doing this and doing that and lying and, you know, just doing bad stuff to everybody. Stealing. Man, it started to really hit me, the severity of what I had done, and especially what had happened to, you know, get me locked up for this serious, very serious, you know, situation that potentially was going to take my life away. So something that I always look forward to was, I had 2 different cases going on. I had the attempted murder and the reckless endangerment with the firearms, and then I still had that weed case that I had gotten arrested for the first time, like 6 or 8 months before this. It's because when I had bonded out, Wisconsin does signature bonds. So you can like sign off on a certain amount of money, and then if you don't show up to court, you have to pay that. And my bond was only like $500, and I was getting high. I didn't care. I didn't want to go to court, you know. Even though if I would have just went to court, it probably would have just been like a little fine or like 6 months of probation. But I didn't know that, and I wasn't trying to hear it. So when I got arrested, I still finally had to deal with this other weed case. The whole case would end up getting dismissed later on. They didn't care about this little weed case when I had an attempted homicide that I was facing. But anyways, a good thing about fighting 2 cases was I got to go to court. Sorry. I got to go to court twice a month. And the reason why I like that so much is because you get to, so the dorms in the jail that I was in, you don't ever get to go outside. You don't get to get real sunlight, and you don't even get to see the outside. They have windows in there, but they don't lead to outside, and they have like this film on them. There's a couple like skylights, but they have a film on it, so you're not really able to even like see the sky or absorb any vitamins that the sun gives you. So you become really pale and ghost looking in there. It sucked, man. I didn't get to go outside for like, I think 14 months I was trapped in that building before they finally shipped me off to prison. But anyways, when you're walking to the courtroom, you have to go through these buildings, and there's one building for maybe like 20 feet. It's like kind of a skywalk, but it's all glass around. So I got to see like the town and people driving, and it made me really happy, but it also made me really sad, because, you know, I would see people walking or driving, and even when it was like winter, I was like, man, it looks freezing, but I wish I could just go outside and go for a walk, or just breathe some fresh air. And I would see people driving, and then, you know, it got me into thinking, when am I going to be able to drive again, you know, or even, am I ever going to be able to drive again? Is it going to take 20 years? Because I didn't know when I was going home, and I was facing 90 years. So that does stuff to you when you're a teenager and you're facing something like that. It messes with you mentally. You start thinking the worst. So, looking forward to going to court. And another good thing about going to court was I was able to see my baby and my girlfriend like in person. Like, we couldn't hug or anything, or barely even talk, but we got to see each other, not through, you know, a screen, because the only visits that they do at the jail I was in is like over the kiosks video. They have tablets and everything now, which I'm so pissed. I wish that we had tablets when I was in there. I guess you can text off them, play games, listen to music, and video chat right from your cell. Man, that would have made my time so much better if we could have done that. But anyways, you know, the first 6 months I'm just getting a routine down. Nothing too crazy happened. Crazy things are about to happen, and we're going to start getting into all that stuff. So I think that's where I'm going to leave off today. I'm sorry that this video wasn't too exciting, but maybe you can just take in, you know, some of the things I said, and maybe think about, you know, be grateful that you're not withdrawing from drugs, facing life sentences, or lucky that you don't have life sentence, because I knew knew a lot of people who did, who are never coming home. 50, 60, 70 years sentenced. So let's just be grateful that, you know, that we can all do what we can do. And if you are in prison somehow watching this, you just got a phone smuggled in there, you can keep your head up. And I'm just being grateful today, talking about all this stuff. You know, I'm driving back. My college is an hour and a half away, and it gives me good time to reflect and good time to make videos. So I'm just grateful that I'm doing this today, and I'm proud of myself for how far I've come since I got incarcerated and since I got released back into the public. I think I'm being the productive member of society the court wanted me to. So thank you guys. If you guys could please support me with a subscribe, I would appreciate it. And you know, I have all this time driving back and forth to college, so I'm gonna start grinding out videos for you guys, and maybe someday I can have 2 incomes, you know, make this little side income. But for now, I'm just trying to get my story out there, and if you guys could help me out, I would appreciate it. If not, that's okay too. But thank you guys. Bye.